I got my buddy Pablo here. Pablo, introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pablo Covarrubias. I'm the broker owner of United Realty. Been in business over 26 years already.
That's why I didn't want to say your last name, because I want to make
You
sure I
screwed up.
got it right. Yeah, people do it to me too, so I just go as George.
They
Welcome,
chop it
Pablo.
up, man. Yeah.
I always respected you in the business. I wanted to have you on here. The idea of the market pulse is, in years past, I think we used to talk stats. I think really what the agents need out there and the members need advice on how to navigate the market. How many agents do you have?
We have around 312 agents now. Yeah.
I always saw your company as the hardworking grinder agents, because that's what I see in you as the leader. Is that who you guys are?
Yeah. I think they lead by example. I'm a hard worker. You know, I grind every day. You see me in the office every day and night. I answer the phones at 9, 10 o'clock sometimes. You know, that's how I've been doing business all these years. It's 26 years. I became a broker in 2008. So when
things were tough,
you know, but we're here. We survived, you know, so I think we're doing something good.
Yeah. So everybody always wants a crystal ball on the market. I know you. It doesn't matter what market you work in. You're going to make it no matter what. But everyone out there wants to know what's coming. So we talked a little bit before the camera turned on about the inventory, right? So we're around 4 months inventory. I felt like things have tightened up a little bit with the weather warming up. The market seems to be getting a little better, but nothing crazy, right? Balanced market between buyers and sellers.
Yeah, it's a healthy market. You know, last month it was kind of slow for us, you know, as far as the company. This month, you know, we're jumping. It's like some days we have a certain amount of closings, but last week my receptionist said, hey, we just had 17 closings in one day. I'm like, oh, shoot, that's good. So it's moving. The market's moving. I think we're in a healthy market, you know. I mean, you see listings lasting 2 or 3 days and then they're sold, versus sometimes they're lasting 75, 80 days. But I think there's factors on that, because some of the agents are listing too high, you know, and they have to reduce them until, you know.
Sure. Every broker, manager, sales manager, owner, team lead will always advise the agent to price the home competitively, right? You always want to be right at the market. If you're too high, then everyone looks back at the house and say, what's wrong with it? Why 90 days? And even if you lower it,
yeah.
I always feel like you'll get less if you lower the price later. If you just pick the right price right up front, you're probably going to get your money out.
Sellers are going to want more money for their houses all the time. You just got to educate them a little bit and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. And I tell the agents, look, get the listing, okay, but be very aggressive. You know what I mean? In 2 weeks, tell them what's going on. 3 weeks, look, no traffic, this and that. The one that was down the street pending now sold for $15,000 less, you know. So do your homework, you know.
Reality check.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I know for a fact that usually May is the highest month for closings for our LVR members. So that tells me that those contracts go under contract in either, you know, late March or sometime in April. So that means it's pretty much like now, the spring is when really agents have to really hustle if they're going to want to make it, right? If you want a piece of May, you need to be working now. Do you tell your agents to work 12 months out of the year, or do you say if you're going to take a month off, don't take the spring off because this is the time to make money?
Well, you know, this is my philosophy on that, man. You got to show up every single day, no matter what the season is, if it's the fall, the winter, or spring, you know, and this is what I tell the new agents coming on board. Hey, welcome to the world of unemployment. I say, well, why? Well, I'm not paying you nothing, man. If you don't close, ain't nobody can get paid here. So, oh yeah, it's commission only. Yeah.
Worse than unemployment. Unemployment gets paid.
Yeah. So it's worse. So, you know, all these years that I've been in business, I think the main thing for me is like, if everybody has jobs, we're going to be okay, no matter what. And the affordability of housing here in Vegas now for the average person that works in a hotel, it's already like, you know, tough. You know, they have to come in with their co-signer, with their son, their daughter, to be able to afford that house. You know? So
I know, member a NAREP, and I'm really all about, you know, home ownership and sharing the dream with everyone. But you're right, hospitality workers, the casinos are cutting back on housekeepers, bellmen. They're cutting the shifts back, right? So those are the folks that are trying to buy the entry-level houses, which the median's now $480. So you're talking 2 incomes. I know you're seeing this, but I want to make sure, I want to ask you, are you seeing at the bottom end of the market family members having to co-sign, gift money? programs. Like they're scratching to make the deals work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And for the average family, like I said, it's tough to pay $2,900 a month. Even though rates have gone down a little bit and there's programs for down payment assistance, at the end of the day, you have to, if you get yourself into a house, you got to know it's for 30 years. It's not just, 1, 2 months and I'm okay. People get excited. But I tell everybody, as long as you can afford the house, you're fine, right? Sometimes what in the Hispanic market, what we're seeing is like people are converting their garages to rent them out. You know what I mean? To get a little bit more cash flow in their pocket. And, again, rents are high. They stable themselves a little bit now, right? Because the landlords were flying high too, like, oh, we're going to get $3,000, not no more. There's a lot of rentals out there now.
Sure.
So you got to adjust accordingly. And I think overall we're in a healthy market.
In that demographic that you work, like let's say Hispanic market, I've always learned that lots of times they don't want to sell those homes. They're generational homes. Yeah. And so for an agent running their business, they might not be able to count on that client calling them back to sell that home to trade. The traditional Americans like to trade cars and trade everything so fast, upgrade 100 feet or 200 feet. And I see that community kind of nestle in and even pass the keys down to their kids. So does that make it tougher because you're only selling that house once and they're staying there 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. That's why most of us Hispanic realtors are buyer's agents, because these people, they stay in their homes for a long time. And I've sold lots of properties, and I see them still in their homes. And maybe they'll buy another one, or their kids are ready to buy, but they normally keep their houses.
Yeah, because they cherish it.
Exactly.
And they see it as a blessing, and they don't want to give up those keys.
Yeah.
And how about when you find a buyer, a young family, when they're right on the bubble and they're feeling like they're pushing real hard to do it? Do you encourage them, buy the house, get the loan, and figure it out later? Or are you a guy that says you really need to be secure and you really need to have, 6-month savings? Because there's two schools of thought. Because once you get the loan, there are some protections for folks once you got the keys. Yeah. But when you're renting, you get that letter, like your tenant rights are not as strong as your owner rights. So what is Pablo's advice to a young family that's a little nervous to buy the house, but can do it?
I just tell them, look at your budget, look at your income, look at, your expenses first. Your first house is not going to be your dream house. Don't overspend. If you need to get in a condo, do it. If you need a townhouse, a little small 2-bedroom house with a garage, that's fine. Do that. You know what I mean? Don't get in trouble trying to compete with the Jones down the street, because then, you're gonna get in trouble. Why? Because, again, you're employed right now, but you always have to have a little budget for anything that happens with your car. You have to buy a new car. Now you got another expense. So I tell them, like, think about it really good. Even though you're qualified for $500,000, can you afford that payment?
Maybe go $450.
Yeah.
Leave a little cushion.
Exactly.
Rainy day, right? Little slush fund. So you mentioned living within your means, and you mentioned condos and townhouses. So that entry-level buyer, that first-time buyer, they used to go towards the condos and townhouses. And we were talking before that with the fees being so high and these HOA and the insurance premiums, it seems like condo sales have really dropped. People would rather go buy an old home for less or a real small home for less, that there's either no HOA or very low insurance costs, versus these $300 a month HOAs and another $200 a month for insurance.
Yes.
The cost of shelter seems to be so high for condos. You see that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The HOAs are high, the insurances are high. So again, if we're talking about a Hispanic family, they'd rather have their little yard, barbecue. Hispanics, they like to party.
I love it.
And with an HOA and a neighbor downstairs.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that, right? So they rather get a 1960 something house than a 2010 condo. And I do the numbers for them, and we try to educate them as far as, like, look, this is going to be your first home. What I tell young people that they're buying, I say, hey, that's great. You're buying at a young age, because you know what? You have a lot to gain. Even if you keep it for 30 years, you're gonna have that as your retirement. So you got to learn how to create cash flow, because if you get laid off from your job, or the time you retire, who knows, Social Security is going to be around or not.
Sure.
So young people, dude, I applaud them because they're buying, they're taking that step, and I try to educate them as far as like, look, I have a bunch of rentals, I have this, I have that. I came from the bottom. We lived in the hood, like you say, and we were in the projects for 20 some years, and I've seen it all. I started at 16 years old washing dishes, and I've been blessed, man. I'm blessed, and I grind, and in my office I put a quote that says, God first, then hustle.
I saw it. I've been there.
So that's my thing. But I think buying a house gives you a little bit of leverage. Like I said, if you're renting, you don't have a choice. You get in trouble with the house, you can always call the bank, say, hey,
Forbearance.
let's go 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Let's lower the interest rate. So you got a little bit of wiggle room there to negotiate with the mortgage.
But not so much with the landlord.
Exactly.
Yeah. So another thing I've learned, I've been to your sales meetings, and I see you as kind of like a tough broker. I see you as real talk. Like, it wasn't easy for me. Why is it going to be easy for you?
Yeah.
There are a lot of agents working at other companies out there, and I there's not a lot of sales. I mean, LVR is selling like 2,000 homes a month.
Yeah.
And there's 15,000 agents. So think about it, like 13,000 didn't get a check. And then you got players that are selling 100.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot going around. Is it tough love? Do you have advice for the agent out there that doesn't have anything under contract, doesn't have anything cooking, and is depressed? Like, what is your advice? Is it door knock? Is it cold call? Is it like, just go sit in a busy place and talk to people? How can somebody get their business going?
You got to treat it like a business, because this is a business. You're in business. I own the restaurant. You came from the restaurant. It's restaurant. Your overhead, it kills you. 2-3 months, you're out of business. Here,
there's no overhead.
I tell the agents, with one transaction a year, you pay your dues, right? You pay your MLS,
Everything.
and everything.
Free roll after that.
You don't have the money, then get out there and prospect. You do open houses, do generating income activities every day. Track your activities every day and see what you're doing. At the end of the week, you give me a report card and say, oh, I didn't do anything. Well, how are you going to get business? And that's just my advice to the agents. You got to treat it like a business. You got to show up to work every day, and you got to do the generating income activities to get those phones to ring, any way you can. And I tell them, do the old school and the new school now. Social media, this and that. Technology, AI, and all this stuff. And, the old school, you got to answer your phone. You got to be available.
Shake hands, look them in the eye, tell them who you are, tell them you mean business.
Yeah, you got to do the old school
and the
new school.
Because old school customers want that. They don't want a text.
Exactly.
They want a phone call, or they want someone knocking at their door and coming in person.
Yeah.
Pablo, I love it. Real talk from you, someone who's a veteran in the business, who's done a lot of business in town. Once again, tell me your company name and where to find you.
It's Pablo Covarrubias from United Realty. We have 2 locations. We have one in Summerlin, and we have one on the east side. We just purchased a building on Pecos and Harmon. 2-story building, elevator, nice. We're up there with the big dogs with you guys now.
There you go. Look at this. The American dream.
There you go.
Bought the building. That's what real estate can do if you hustle. Follow his advice, everybody. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you, George. Thank you for inviting me.